Carpe diem, seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome to Carpe Diem. On this episode, we're talking Zoomer lifestyle, health, fitness, and sex as we age. Taking personal responsibility for our most treasured gift, our good health, is the most important thing that we can do. Now, of course, some of us have greater challenges than others, illness, chronic pain. These things can make us feel like we have no power over our own lives. But that doesn't have to be so. If we need help, we should feel good about asking for it. Now, recently, I had the opportunity to speak with Dr. Patrick McGowan, a leading researcher at the University of Victoria. Now, Patrick has spent the last 30 years developing programs that teach people with chronic conditions strategies to manage their own health. Let's take a look.
Well, these are the different materials for the different programs. For instance, this toolkit for active living with a chronic condition. And you see a different one over here. One's for diabetes, toolkit for living with diabetes. And most people with chronic health conditions manage about 99.9% of the time by themselves. So people need some skills and some abilities to manage. We've been doing programs that are similar for about 30 years, but in groups, in-person groups. And we found that a lot of people just don't go to groups, would rather have a one-to-one relationship. And there's two people involved. There's the coach, and coaches are usually people who have chronic health conditions themselves and probably been through the program. And then there's a participant.
I was diagnosed a number of years ago with a chronic health problem, and since then have developed a few more. And I have found the program very helpful for me. So I wanted to give back what I learned from the program as a participant to becoming a leader and a coach.
As a participant, let's go back in history a little bit. When you first started, what was that moment when you thought, wow, am I ever glad I'm here, because I could never have done this or figured this out on my own?
When I first joined the program years ago, I had lots of discomfort. I was feeling sorry for myself, and being involved, making action plans and decisions and problem solving, you could deal with some of the issues, and it got me moving, doing more exercise, eating healthier, making new friends.
The person who's taking the program, the participant, would get a book like this to read, because we want people to find information themselves. So the coach would have this book and the participant have this book, and the coach would say, well, isn't there something in the book about exercising after you've had a heart attack? Let's just look at a book together. But it does teach the person to seek some information and to learn things themselves.
With the coach, she makes it realistic. It's realistic for you because it's really specific to you in terms of, because it's only you have to live with your condition. It's a real motivator because, you might say to yourself, I think I'll do that, or I'll work towards that. But knowing that she was going to call me at the end of the week and say, okay, let's look at the plan. How did you work it out? Did you get there? And it was encouragement. It wasn't being judgmental. It was just encouraging you to continue on to work towards your goal.
Coaches, do not tell people what to do, and don't solve the problems for people, okay? Because it's not going to be helpful at all. Coaches work with people, offer support, encouragement, but all the time in almost every call, get the person to use some self-management strategies. An important self-management strategy would be problem solving, so that the person will learn to solve the problem themselves.
When you're diagnosed with a chronic illness, you often feel a loss of control, like there's nothing I can do to help myself. And the aha moment to me comes when people realize, yes, there are things that I can do to help myself and to manage better. It's confidence. It's confidence in your ability to manage.
There's more people in Canada that are over 65 than under 15, so your program is going to be huge for them.
Yeah, and it creates resiliency. It creates skills in people so that they're not helpless saying, doctor, fix me, like do it for me, because people can do a lot of things to help maintain their health and manage nicely.
Well, I say that if you're not engaged in your own care,
That's right.
your chances of success is in someone else's hand, and that's really not the way to go.
Well, everybody is self-managing, one way or the other. Either they're self-management in a not very productive way or in a productive way. And the idea of these programs, their intervention is to teach people some skills and some abilities so they can manage in a better way.
If you're interested, go to selfmanagementbc.ca. The other thing that really struck me about that story was the opportunity to be 100% honest with someone who understands and actually cares about how you really feel. When we come back, we're going to be feeling great because it's all about sex.
Still ahead on Carpe Diem.
It's more important when you're younger than it is as you get really older.
When you're in your 20s, that's pretty much all there is.
Carpe Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome back. Sexual health is so important, and our need for intimacy is timeless. Now, as we age, our sex drive may not be the same as it was when we were younger, but for many of us, it's still there. The New England Journal of Medicine did a recent study that said nearly a quarter of adults over 75 are still having sex. Now, I was curious to find out more, so I brought together a panel of experts to discuss Zoomer sex. But first, let's hear what you think about sex as we age.
Sex? Oh, I think it's very important.
Oh man, it's critical.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. It's because it's fun.
It probably is less important as you age than when you're younger.
It's as important as it ever has been.
Extremely so.
It's more important when you're younger than it is as you get really older.
When you're in your 20s, that's pretty much all there is.
I'd like to have it more often, and I'm getting it, so to speak.
You know, 5-6 times a week is good for anybody, I think. You know.
I'm surprised to hear that some people said that sex was not as important as we age. Dr. Winters, why is that?
Okay, so this might seem like the wrong answer, given that I'm a sex therapist, and a large part of the work that I do is helping people improve their sex lives. But I think sex for some people is like anything else. It can be important at certain stages of life, but then that may change. If you compare it to things like family, if you have a family, or career, things like that where it may have more importance during certain decades, but less importance in other decades.
Yeah. Dr. Peach, what would you like to add to that?
I think, you know, the importance of sex is probably understated in terms of, you know, not just how it's helpful for us physically. So you talked about a little bit there about how it helps to reduce blood pressure, how it's good physically, but just the emotional aspect. I think the emotional importance of it. So it's no less important at different times in our life.
Marina, your thoughts on that?
As you age, you know, you have more time, but I think then people also maybe feel differently about their bodies as they age. And so maybe there's something to that, you know, it's about how you feel about yourself physically that is changing what sex is, but doesn't mean it can't be both fun and good for you, right?
I think it's good. But you know what? Let's go back into the street because we asked, how is your sex life?
It gets better in some ways, but I'm older, and so there's issues that come with aging.
We eat well and exercise a lot, and so just no differences.
I'm 69, but I haven't had any complaints.
Not as physical, I guess, depending on how physical you were when you were younger.
I think we've got it covered.
So, Dr. Peach, how does our sex drive change as we age?
Across the board, we might say that naturally as we age, because of some of the challenges that our body faces as we age, then you may say in general there's a drop in sex drive, but that's a very individual thing. I think for some people their sex drive actually increases.
I think that speaks to a really important distinction, and that's the difference between sex drive and the desire for sex, which are two different but related things. So I typically think of sex drive as that physiological drive state, much like being hungry, that state of tension in that you want to have some sort of sexual experience. But the desire for sex doesn't necessarily need to flow from that. As a matter of fact, many times it doesn't. So to get to your point, which I think is a really good point, I think changes in life related to creating opportunities or having opportunities to sexually reconnect can increase a desire for sex, regardless of whether or not that sex drive is still as strong as it once was. And I think what people often find is once they start re-engaging in sex and they're having good sex, the drive actually gets stronger. In other words, there's more physiological drive to have sex that flows from those positive experiences.
Use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there you go. Zoomers are still having sex. And I remember hearing that it was even increasing in retirement homes. And I guarantee you, if I was in there, I'd be doing it. I mean, come on. Sex is not just fun, but it's good for our health. It can burn fat, cause the brain to release endorphins, and drastically reduce anxiety. Think of all the benefits, plus doctor's orders. When we come back, we're talking physical fitness.
Still ahead on Carpe Diem.
I really want to try and open people's eyes and show them that it's possible to hit new peaks as you get older.
Carpe Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome back. Now let's talk fitness. To be honest, I let mine go for a few years due to injuries and a very heavy work schedule. My passion was running, and I ran countless half marathons, and I love those long runs. I remember how glorious it felt. But my neglected Zoomer body was not ready to run again. So I had to make a plan to move, to make my fitness a priority. So I started taking time out of my very busy schedule to exercise, and I just booked it in the calendar and kept my appointments. But it's hard to get the ball rolling when you don't know where to start. So I talked to fitness guru Alex Ackerley to learn about some of the best exercises that we can do to stay strong as we age.
The niche has really become working with people who have perhaps view their peak years as behind them in terms of athletic ability. And I really want to try and open people's eyes and show them that it's possible to hit new peaks as you get older. And seeking some variety as we go along is one of the best ways to do that.
What do you recommend people should do every day? Where do you start them?
Well, you just got to get started, I guess, is the main thing. And if we really wanted to boil that down to 2 or 3 simple things, we want to be able to get up and down off the floor. It's a much underrated skill that sometimes we don't realize we need until we lose it. Secondly, squats, we sit down, we stand up all day long, and it's a great way for us to strengthen really key areas of the body. So we need to be good at squatting, and we need to do it regularly. And then some form of upper body strength is important. If you think about functional movement, whether it's picking up grandkids or whether it's opening doors, we need our upper body to be able to function. So keep an eye on 2 areas. Let's make sure that we maintain mobility in the shoulder and hips. If we're not supporting weight, if we're not supporting load and the body doesn't sense tension going on through our skeleton, then it's going to discard a lot of that calcium that we deposit over time to keep ourselves strong. So it's important that we don't stop carrying our own bags and taking the groceries all the way out to the car and throwing them in the back of the truck yourself, because those are the kind of things that are going to tell the skeleton that we need to keep that bone density up.
What kind of simple exercises could we do to work on our bone density and our muscle mass?
One of my favorite ones is just a farmer's carry or a suitcase carry. And in a big gym, we can stand up and we can walk around, carry things through the gym. But right now, we don't all have the space for that. So one of the videos I shared here was just a static suitcase carry where you can hold something heavy. I think I've got a water bottle there. And I'm just marching on the spot. And that's really shifting the weight from one leg into the other. And that's sending the signal to my bones, particularly my big bones in my legs, that they need to stay strong for me, and I need to add some bone density there. And the second exercise was the sandbag bent over row. It's an upper body strengthener, particularly for the back. And that's one of the most important spots to work on for us, because when we spend all our time sat in chairs, our back gets somewhat neglected, and keeping it strong is key for posture, as we mentioned earlier, and for functional strength. The biggest hurdle is getting going, and don't be afraid to get started. Everybody has to start somewhere, and when you work with an expert, when you work with somebody who knows what they're doing, my goal is to find out what your starting point is, and we can progress anybody, whether you are an ex-athlete or whether you're somebody who wants to make the first start on your 60th birthday. We can get you going and we can move you forward.
Alex, thank you so much for being with us and giving us some good healthy tips.
My pleasure, Carmen. Thanks for having me.
Alex is so right. It's so easy to lose your fitness. Remember how fit you were even a decade ago? And it's hard to resume a workout routine from the bottom and work your way up. Now, for me, it's been a few months of exercising consistently. The difference in how I feel is hard to describe. Just going for my daily morning beach walk sets me up for a better day mentally and physically. I recommend it. Go for a walk. Remember that it's easier to start small and work your way up. Now, we don't want any more injuries. Now, after the break, my colleague Dee Natwal takes us on a yoga retreat for Zoomers.
Still ahead on Carpe
Baby
diem.
boomers are realizing that health is wealth and peace of mind is happiness, and yoga shows the way.
Carpe diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome back. Have you ever done yoga? Do you remember how you felt in that first class? Now, as with any form of exercise, it's so important to start slowly and build up. Your body will let you know how far to go, and we have to listen to it carefully. Now, before COVID-19 changed all of our lives, my colleague Dee Natwal took a trip out to Bowen Island to learn all about Zoomer yoga. Let's take a look.
It just is health and wellness. Being in nature in and of itself is a beautiful way to just reconnect with yourself and to calm the mind, and then add a little yoga and meditation into that and it's totally zen.
One of the greatest things about yoga is how easily it can be adapted to meet the needs of anybody willing to give it a try. With that in mind, yogis are now tailoring their teachings to Canada's largest demographic, the baby boomer.
Baby boomers are realizing that health is wealth and peace of mind is happiness, and yoga shows the way. So we cater our classes to all age categories and age ranges, but we're finding that we do have a large population of baby boomers that are coming here because they realize that they want to live a long and healthy life, and that starts with mobility in the body. Breathe in and a deep breath out. So some of the ancient texts of yoga date back to 10,000 years. And so we know that yoga is very old and it's ancient wisdom. And it's so modern though as well. And science is just coming around to prove all of these ancient technologies and techniques that have been practiced for thousands of years.
What can you tell me about sun salutation, that move? It's not just one pose, it's a series of poses.
So Surya Namaskar in Sanskrit means sun, Surya, and Namaskar is a blessing or an honoring of the sun. So often yogis would greet the morning with a practice of yoga, and so it's a way of blessing and honoring the sun.
Up to the sky, forward and up. Look up as you reach up. Palms touch. As you exhale, take your body up and over the legs, soften the knees, and touch your fingers to the floor. Good.
So you have Urdhva Vrikshasana, or a tree pose to start, and then you fold into a deep forward bend, and then you inhale into a half forward fold, and then you come to plank, and you either come into a push-up position called Chaturanga Dandasana, or knees, chest, chin, and then up into a cobra to bend the arch the spine, and then you exhale into downward facing dog.
Straighten the arms, take a deep breath in, and a deep breath out. Try to press the heels back and down. Breathe in.
What are the benefits of this sequence?
I think it's a good way to warm the entire body up to begin a practice.
Now, some say that yoga is medicine. In fact, some doctors are now prescribing yoga as a form of treatment. What can you say about that?
Absolutely, yoga is medicine, and yoga is a system of medicine. It has a whole sister system called Ayurveda, which is the medicine system of yoga. And people are using herbs, they're using diet, they're using the physical postures, the breath work, and meditation for their whole body health. And this is taken not only on the mat, but into one's life.
From here on Bowen Island, finding the time to energize and breathe, Dean Atwell.
I want to go on a yoga retreat, don't you? And it's encouraging to see that so many fitness professionals are now catering to our Zoomer demographic. There's something for everyone, and looking after your mind and spirit can be as important as looking after your body. And hey, if we can do it all at once, even better. I always want to have expert advice and guidance, especially when it comes to my health and fitness. And I look for all kinds of sources. Now, you can get help, and there's plenty of people available to guide you towards a healthier life. You don't have to navigate alone. You want a tip? Deborah Devine hosts a yoga show on our sister channel, One Get Fit TV. And the videos are also on YouTube. And she designed an entire series for us 45 plus. So go ahead and do a class. My final thought, we're in charge of our own destiny, but there's help out there. And that's the show. If you want to see a topic covered here, get in touch. And don't forget, as our CARP president, Moses Neimer, always says, the best way to keep going is to keep going. So carpe diem and seize your day.